Hi, my name is Debra R. Richardson of Debra R. Richardson LLC, and I work with you to help you clean up your vendor data, clean up your vendor processes, and pay the right vendor. Now, this week's Vendor Master File tip of the week is a best practice for your vendor team that they're probably not doing. Now, I recently had a webinar called Avoid Fraud in the Vendor Process, 20 Tips in 20 Minutes. And if you want to check that out, it will pop up at the end of this video. But in that webinar, I shared 20 tips on how to avoid business email compromise, gift card scams, and credential theft. Now, of the 20, 10 tips were, not surprisingly, focused on business email compromise, trying to avoid sending cyber criminals your vendors legitimate payments. Now, based on the questions I received, one of those tips is a best practice that your vendor team is probably not doing, and that is asking for existing banking information. And there are two ways that you can use it. So the first way is to authenticate the requester. So I talk a lot about authentication, making sure you are dealing with who they say they are. You're actually dealing with your real vendor. Now, for example, is when you call your bank, they ask you multiple questions to make sure you are who you say you are before they talk to you about whatever it was you were calling about. And you need to do the same thing with your vendors. You can use existing information on the vendor record that only the vendor would know, including the last 4 or 5 digits of their bank account number on file. Now, the second way is to use the existing vendor banking data as authenticating data. So while you are collecting the new vendor banking details, require the existing banking details. And if they push back because they don't have it, then you have to wonder if they don't have access or authority to obtain the existing banking details, do they really have the authority to give you new banking details? And to make it easier to collect the existing banking details, I will link to a company branded ACH slash vendor banking form template. It is a paid resource on my site. I'll link to it in the description, but you can customize it, which saves you hours from having to create that same form from scratch. And if you would like more information on how to improve your vendor process, please go to my website at debrarrichardson.com for both free and paid resources and tools to avoid fraud, regulatory fines, and bad vendor data. So good luck, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified next Tuesday for the next Vendor Master File tip of the week.